Today I want to dive into one of the biggest mysteries currently unfolding in One Piece, and that is the legendary Devil Fruit of Elbaf. Now, Oda has been teasing this fruit since chapter 1130, and with the ongoing Herald and Loki flashback, we're getting closer to its eventful reveal. But before that happens, I want to break down a theory that I've been building up ever since the fruit was mentioned. One that connects Elbaf, Loki, and the Holy Knights and Shanks, and possibly even the Sun God itself. In chapter 1130, we first hear about the unnamed devil fruit sealed within the chambers inside of Harold's castle, a fruit important enough to spark a battle. We know Loki was said to have eaten this fruit after the fight, but the story gets strange immediately because we haven't seen Loki use any of the devil fruit's ability. And even when he uses Ragnir to strike lightning onto the tree, he was changed with sea stone, meaning that lightning wasn't a devil fruit, but the weapon itself. So the question is simple. Does Loki actually have a devil fruit at all? And there are several theories floating around. Some believe that the fruit is tied to the Norse gods or mythological creatures, and others think that it could be a duplicate sun god fruit or the original version of the Gum Gum fruit that Luffy has now. But with that, Vegapunk has already stated that there is no such thing as the Gum Gum fruit within the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, and only a rubber fruit renamed by the world government that exists today, which is the Hito Hito fruit. But, we don't know fully if the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia is an all-encapsulating encyclopedia of every single Devil Fruit, which leads to the major question: if this legendary Elbaf fruit truly was the Sun God fruit, then why doesn't Loki show any signs of having it? And Loki's a special case, right? I mean, he calls himself the Sun God. He has a special bounty, which we have, to my knowledge, never seen in One Piece. He was captured 6 years ago by red hair Shanks this is something from 1136. And, Chief Jarl has stated that maybe Loki and Harold's efforts in what they've done throughout their life was a way of achieving or becoming Sun God themselves. But there's also the possibility that Loki is taking the fall for something he didn't do. Maybe the fruit was never eaten by him to begin with. Maybe he's blamed so no one looks deeper into what really happened that day. Which brings us to Shanks. Now we know three things. 1. Shanks was present on Elbaf during this event. 2. During that, Shanks has the Covenants tattoo that we saw in chapter 1167. He has the same exact tattoo on his arm. And 3. After this, timeline or era we would like to call, Shanks leaves the Holy Knights and, goes back to his crew. Now I want you guys to imagine this. When Harold's castle fell and the Conqueror's Haki erupted in the island and Shanks took notice of it, Shanks, still a Holy Knight, rushes to investigate. In the aftermath, he finds the legendary Devil Fruit inside the destroyed chambers. And if you look back at that panel, you can see a silhouetted figure that looks like he's wearing a robe and a hood show up at the Devil Fruit. And with this, potentially Shanks finds out that this is what they believe at the time to be the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And at that point, Imu takes notice of it. Imu is desperate to control this and sends out world government agents and whatever Imu can produce and seizes control of this fruit and starts to transport it. And with what I've discussed in the previous video I made for the One Piece 1167 review, Shanks at this moment, even though he's a Holy Knight, he has made his crew. He has already met Yasop and, asked him to join his crew and stuff. So Shanks already had developed his crew and joined the Holy Knights after. With this, potentially, Shanks realizes this is the fruit. If the reason why he joined the Holy Knights was to find the Sun God fruit, this is the fruit that I've been looking for this whole time, and disbands from the Holy Knights and knows intel because he was a Holy Knight and goes for the fruit, which is when he takes over who's ship and takes the Devil Fruit back. And with all that being said, it all eventually leads to Luffy eating the fruit in the Dawn Island at Windmill Village. And this perfectly explains why Loki appears fruitless. Because he doesn't have a fruit. And the fruit that he takes the fall for eating, in reality, is the sun god that the giants have been looking up to this whole time. And, when they say, hey, Luffy, you dress up in all white, and the character that you are is the person that we worship, that's the sun god. And Luffy's like, haha, who is that? That's not me, I'm just Luffy. But that's it. Luffy ate the ancient or the, legendary devil fruit that the giants have held for many years. And given that Shanks is involved in all of this, we don't know why Shanks showed up at Dawn Island with the Devil Fruit. There's other theories that opens up a whole bucket of worms about if he wanted Ace to eat the Devil Fruit or not. But at the end of the day, Shanks' involvement, and the fact that he was part of the Holy Knights could mean that he twisted some sort of story at the end of the day, whether it's in regards of after the fruit was transported, after he stole it from Who's Who, or whatnot. But there's a bigger picture to play, and maybe they did end up blaming Loki, saying, "Hey, the fruit that you guys were transporting was seized by Loki. He took the fruit and he ate it." And that's where the special bounty comes into play. The reason why Loki has the special bounty, because the government and the world government in Emu assumed that Loki potentially has the Hito Hito no Mi model sun god. And definitely by the end of this flashback, we are going to get answers to these questions or these theories, right? We're going to know the sequence of events that take place in which this legendary fruit gets eaten or taken or stolen or whatever. And if the case is true and this theory does come to light, then we're going to get a full turnaround and a full loop into Luffy and the Giants finally realizing that this is the man who ate the legendary fruit of the Giants and he has awakened it and he is the true sun god. This is the person we've been waiting for, and whatever message that portrays to Jarl, that portrays to Loki, that portrays to the Giants, we're going to get a full blown. I mean, this is the final saga. Where we go from here, given that Emu's on the island, this could end up being, the transition to the final war. And to wrap this up and to give a conclusion, it's basically just the fact that I don't think Loki has a fruit and that Loki is actually fruitless. And this whole thing has been a lie that he has twisted and turned in order to make Elbaf just hate him, just to take blame for it rather than having it be blamed on someone else. And it's the fact that Luffy is the one who ate that fruit. Somehow, some way, obviously we know somehow, some way, but in terms of just Elbaf's knowledge, it ended up being eaten by this random person in the East Blue, and now he is on their island to save them from Emu. And I want to just throw a couple things at you that are not really correlated with the story or the theory, but, may have some merit to all of this. And it's the fact that if you look at Loki's hat and the way he wears it, get rid of those thorns. It looks like he's wearing a straw hat. Secondly, Loki, when we get first introduced to him and how he is shown, he has his tongue out. And from what we learned from the previous chapters of, the end of Rocks in chapter 1166, we see that Loki thought of Rocks as the sun god, and he thought that Rocks was the sun god, and Rox's bounty poster has his tongue out. So I think Loki's whole persona, and this has been told that a lot of people's dreams in Elbaf is to be the sun god, but I think Loki's whole persona is that he wishes he was sun god and he wants to be sun god. Even his name, Loki, is very similar to Luffy. But that's just doing a huge stretch. I don't even know why I said that, but we're keeping it. But it's just those small details that Oda has thrown in to show us that Loki is someone who wishes and wants to be the sun god and is willing to take blames for it in order to keep that facade. But in reality, the truth and the person who is the sun god is there and potentially is going to liberate him, right? And like I said in the last chapter, Loki for Straw Hats. So let me know what you guys think. Is Loki falsely blamed? Was Shanks actually the true thief in all of this? And if you agree with me, is Luffy the current user of the fruit that Elbaf has as their legendary fruit that they've kept in their chambers? This flashback is still going on and there's a lot to uncover, but the pieces are starting to line up, and maybe in a chapter or two, maybe 3, we're going to finally get these answers. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, give me your thoughts on all of this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.